All right, good morning. Welcome in. It is February. Welcome to February, February 2nd, 2026, 10 a.m., 10 degrees out. I'm getting sick of this. Typically, right around now, I'd be thinking about going to Florida soon. Obviously, that's not the case. Could be the case a little bit with Italy, but we're going to wait and see. The shoulder has not responded very well this week, so we're going to give it. I'll be announced on the roster on Thursday. We'll give it through Friday. Hopefully, I can turn the corner then, and then I can realistically say I'll be a part of it. But if not, we'll pull the plug at that point. But we'll see. Hopefully, I don't have to do that. But yeah, things have not cooperated, and that's what happens when you don't throw a baseball for 7 months, I think. But that's okay. All good either way. We have lots to discuss today. There's actually some things that happened. We are into the Caribbean series now. There was 2 exciting games. Of course, we can't get any of the video of that. We can check the box scores a little bit in the play-by-play. But what we'll do is we'll get into most of the moves early that were made. There's a couple things to kick around from this weekend that did happen. And then we'll see what you guys are thinking in the chat, really. Overall, I don't know what I just pressed. But let's get into it today, folks. All right, so Eugenio Suarez is probably the biggest signing that happened. Obviously, there's the Arraez. Yeah, Arraez. You know what? Let's start with Arraez. I titled it Arraez. Let's start with Arraez. He gets the 1-year deal, $12 million with the Giants. So let's go see. It's interesting. They have him penciled in at second base. Apparently, that was a big deciding factor. I don't necessarily blame him for going that route and looking for opportunity. One of the things that we talked about on Friday's show is what can a team offer you besides money to get you to sign? And there's a lot of nuance there depending on where a guy is in their career. But with a guy like Arraez and a guy like Bader, both of those guys end up signing with Giants. And yes, they got money. It's not a small amount of money, but really it's about opportunity, because in this game, once you become a player that can't show that they're a complete player, it's a pretty fast exit out of this game. So Arraez is penciled in at second base. They have him here listed at leadoff. I don't think this is how the lineup's going to look. I mean, I'm sure this will be moving around a little bit as we go. But I think the big thing for him was he wants to prove that he can play some defense at second base. He's really going to have a hard time getting jobs, as we've seen from good teams, and he's going to have a really hard time exciting people if he can't play any defense, because with the lack of power in his game, the lack of speed in his game, if the defensive value is not there, now you're looking at a light hitting in terms of power, first base DH type, which doesn't really fit hardly anywhere. Now, do I like watching Luis play? Yeah, I like watching him play. He's an old school player. He does some things at the very highest level that you can possibly do them. And I do think, in San Francisco, he makes some sort of sense in that ballpark offensively. I think, considering I just talked about how the Giants have been leaning into a little bit more of, attempting to build more power in their lineup. But between Arraez and Jung-Hoo Lee, they might have a possibility of some timely hits, a little bit of a more diverse style of offense. So from that point of view, I get it. I don't understand the price tag. I'm surprised he got paid this much money. I don't know what the other offers were. Not that he doesn't deserve the 12, but I'm surprised when he got grinded down to the 1-year situation and he had to pick the opportunity situation that also came with a good amount of money. So ultimately, I'm a little surprised. We had been hunting around the league for an Arraez team. I never considered the Giants because I didn't think he was going to play second base. Casey Schmidt had been penciled in as the starting second baseman, but now he's got to take a back seat, at least in the early going, while they let Arraez play some baseball and see how it goes at second. So let's go over to my guy here. And take another look at the profile. 8 home runs last year, you could probably expect that number to be even lower. $12 million for a one-tool player who has negative defensive value as a second baseman is too much. Also, it's important to remember that outs above average is a cumulative stat. So he was -9 outs above average, and he didn't play that many innings in the field. If he would have been a full-time fielder, he would have been probably easily the worst qualified fielder. been like -20 almost. You know, -16, I think is the figure that I saw if he had full amount of innings in the field. But I don't want to harp too much on the negative of this because it is what it is. Like, we're going to find out whether he's regained some defensive value. I mean, I see a lot of videos of his training that's always getting posted. You know, Nelson Cruz has been a part of his routine for a long time. I think it's a similar trainer. Cruz had incredible longevity, but obviously he was more of a power hitter and he was stuck at DH. But I totally agree. That's a weird ass looking savant page. And it is. First percentile barrels. So here's the negatives. Here's what he's bad at. First percentile barrels and hard hit and bat speed. So that kind of says it all. Like, you're not going to hit the ball that hard if you swing slow. But he swings slow on purpose. His swing is incredibly short. If we go to swing length, he'll have the shortest swing in the league. The idea is just, you're not going to make a lot of error when you just go from here to here. There's no like big gather to do any damage, just from here to here. So he's the best ever at putting the ball in play and squaring it up. I mean, look at that, squared up. He's 100th percentile. So just being on two complete opposite ends of the spectrum shows you what he's selling out for in his approach. Now, the thing that I think could take his game and actually make it acceptable on offense and make it more exciting on offense is two things. Number one, his first pitch swing percentage is really, really low. I wonder if I have that in here somewhere. I think there's probably a way to look at that. Yeah, first pitch swing percentage, 20%. League average is 30%. So he's not taking any chances early. And it's not like we've never seen him hit home runs. We've seen him hit a few home runs. Let's go. They're obviously all dead pull. Let's go look him up. Let's go look at him. Most of the time he's going to be in an advantage count and he's going to get the barrel out pull side. See, there's one. One thing he does do really well is he stays behind the ball really well. Like, in theory, if he took more shots to pull the ball in the air, he could do some more things offensively. Now, it's not going to play in the San Francisco ballpark, but you only play half your games there. Now, it all kind of works together, because if you're facing Arraez, like when I was facing him, because he has the lack of pop overall, big part of the approach would be throw the ball right down the middle. Like, let's just get this at bat over with. The last thing you want to do is walk this guy. You want to make him earn it. You really want to make him put the ball in the air. My approach with him was fastballs at the top of the zone, up in, up away, you know, force him to put the ball in play in the air, which is what he doesn't do a good job of, especially to the opposite field, if you can make that happen. But I just think he should swing more 0-0, because everybody knows how patient he is, and they know how he's a pretty good hitter with 2 strikes, but he's giving you the free strike. Again, you look at that first pitch swing percentage, you know, 20%, being 10%, a full 10 percentage points below average is just, you're basically letting the other team get ahead of you, and that's why his walk rate is so poor as well. So, you know, you look at it and it's like ultimately his job is to get timely hits and get on base, because he's not doing any damage. But the get on base part is not really there. 10th percentile in walks at only 5%. And I think a big part of that is guys aren't afraid to pound the zone against him because he has no power. I don't think it can be overstated just how important having power is to drawing walks. It steers guys out of the strike zone when they're in bad counts. It makes you think twice about challenging a guy. You know, they don't have to do that with him. But if he took a few more chances early, he could get himself in some better counts overall, I think. So if I'm him, obviously you can't completely change who you are, but there's 2 factors that really matter a lot in this year for him. Number one is defense. You know, did he get quicker? Did he get more agile? Can he figure out a way to get back close to neutral on defense? And then number 2, that first pitch behavior. It's great that he doesn't strike out. I mean, this is incredible. 3.1% strikeout rate in today's game doesn't really make a lot of sense, you know? But again, if you're not putting any thump behind the ball, people are going to challenge you all the time. And even hitting 292, even hitting 314, you're not even getting to league average OPS. So if I were him, I'd be prioritizing my defense, taking more chances on 0-0 counts, trying to drive myself into better hitting counts to take more to take more shots. But it's a weird player. I mean, we're happy we're going to get to watch him on a team that's trying. But I really feel like, you know, we were wondering where he was going to go. And this is a risky move by the Giants. So it's kind of like opposites. You know, they just get Bader to patrol center in a big ballpark out there. And his defense is going to make a huge difference in San Francisco. And he's a guy who has learned to take his shots offensively. On the flip side, now you're getting a guy with 0 defensive value to play second. And at one point, Willie was kind of struggling at short too. So they have a chance to be really poor up the middle in the infield, and they have an extremely pitch contact pitching staff. Logan Webb, Tyler Mahle, Adrian Hauser, Landon Roop, all those guys, everybody but Robbie Ray. I guess Molly's more of a fly ball pitcher, but Webb, Hauser, and Roop are going to get grounders. You're going to want good defenders in the infield. Now, they have Chapman. He's amazing, obviously, at third. But the combination of Adames, well, I want to check really quick how Adames's defensive numbers have changed in recent times. But they're going to have Adames and Arraez up the middle. All right, good. So his range did bounce back up to 5 outs above average. That's very important because he's going to have to cover quite a bit. And he's had some bounce arounds. This is Willie Adames on defense. All right, good. At least it's somewhat stabilized. The last 4 years, he's been way above average. He had been bad for a stretch earlier, it looks like, through 2020, 2021 with the Rays. But since he's left the Rays, he's been quite good. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Because, again, when you're getting ground balls, you want to have a great defense. I've been a part of teams that really prioritize infield defense with ground balls. Obviously, being with the Rockies, this was one of our strategies at one point. Have elite infield defense. You know, we had Arenado, Tulowitzki, LeMahieu at one point, and then Story later. You know, it's a really, really good defense. McMahon. That's a big deal when you're getting ground balls. Those guys will convert those into outs, double plays, etc. I am a little worried about how that's going to play with Arraez and how long they can hang on with him at second if he doesn't show immediate improvement. So that's the defensive part of it. That's scary. On the offensive side, I mean, yeah, they're putting together a pretty fascinating offensive club all of a sudden. I'd probably would mix up the left, right, left here. But I mean, Arraez is a 2-time, maybe 3-time batting champ. Devers, we know what he can do. Adames, we know what he can do. Chapman, we know what he can do. Lee, we're waiting for that first full real go, and that's what we're going to see this year. Ramos was an all-star as a rookie, so he's looking to bounce back. Bader had his best offensive season last year, and I've been talking a lot about how Eldridge is the X factor for this team because he has such big upside, but also, you know, really low floor probably as well at the plate. And then that way you don't have to worry about Bailey's offense. He can just do his thing behind the plate. So I like what they're building offensively. I don't know what this is going to mean in terms of wins and losses and in terms of total impact, but we did finally get a place to watch Arraez play baseball this year, and I'm happy about that. So let's get into the chat here for a minute, and then we'll bounce around a little bit here. I don't even care if he wants to prioritize contact. The swing decisions are just so bad. It's like he's trying to get into 0-2 counts. It's the way I feel too. I mean, granted, he's so good with 2 strikes at putting the ball in play, doing what a lot of people can't do. But he's missing on all the opportunity. All the opportunity in baseball often comes early in the count. You just go look at the numbers league-wide with 2 strikes. I always just felt like the at-bat was over with 2 strikes. I mean, I've had seasons where I gave up like less than 5 hits with 2 strikes, like the whole season. So I just personally don't understand the approach, regardless of how good he is at it. I don't know if he's even seeing the most pitches or anything like that. If that's part of the approach either, but I agree with you. He just needs to take more shots early. Like if you're not worried about getting to 0-2, then what do you care about, you know, swinging and missing or swinging and hitting a pull side foul ball or something? It's fine. You're protected. Imagine giving up a homer to Arraez 4 inches off the plate on his hands. You got to be so pissed. Yeah, I mean, there are some guys. I mean, at least he has some home run power, right? Like, you know, he's hit a few. I mean, like I mentioned before, I've seen him hit 2 home runs in a game. So it's there. I mean, he's got 8 this year, only had 4 in 24. So yes, he's definitely in the handful of players where if you give up a home run to him, you cannot believe you gave up a home run to him. This reminds me of when my good friend teammate Boone Logan gave up a home run to Ben Revere, and it was like the first home run in like 2,000 at-bats, and he just was like, should I just turn my glove in and my uniform in and go home? Or I remember I gave up a home run to Alexi Amarista. Like, there's certain guys that you're just like, can't believe you give up home runs to, Arraez is probably in that category. Optimal pitch strategy is right down the middle. Yeah, well, if you're not going to swing and you're not worried about giving up damage, not a bad idea. Also, for a guy who's pretty good at hitting the ball where it's pitched, a la Tony Gwynn, you know, make him hit it to the big part of the field where he doesn't have any power to get it out anyway. So, yeah, kind of middle up. Make him hit the ball in the air, especially to the opposite field, because you can see there's nothing happening over there. Like, these are his only opposite field doubles.
Hitting at 352 during that time. To left center field and on the
I mean, they're playing way shallow and in, too, and that's the only reason that ball doesn't get caught. Let's see this other one. Yeah, see, I think that's a good pitch by Glasnow. I mean, he hit it right in the gap, but that's not generally what he does. He usually gets under that a lot, and it's a lot more of a can of corn. But you see the strategy. Just pitch him up in the zone, make him hit a fly ball. Not a whole lot's going to happen. Anyway, I find this one interesting overall. I want to go look at his percentile rankings just to see if anything's changed over the last few years that are an indicator of some stuff. Well, the expected batting averages hold well. The expected slug obviously has come way down. See, at one point it was not bad. 72nd percentile in 23. I mean, now you're looking at a pretty dynamic offensive player there. And the on-base percentage, where that's really what he's paid to do, is get on base. So obviously he's doing a lot of that with hits, but it's got to get better. It's got to get better there. And at one point he did draw walks, you know? So we need a return to form with that. I think ultimately it comes down to this, the chase rate. Just because you can put bat on ball doesn't mean you should swing all the time. So control the zone better, take your chances earlier, get that walk rate up, do a little bit more damage, and now all of a sudden you're a very interesting offensive player again. Very, very useful one. But the other aspect is that defensive aspect, so we'll see what that does. I mean, being only 28 years old, you would hope that there's a way he can kind of bounce back. But I know that he's had long-standing knee issues going back to when he was with the Twins, and that's a big part of the reason they were willing to part with him in the first place for Pablo Lopez in that trade to Miami. So all that kind of comes in. All that kind of comes into play. How afraid will the pitchers be of their middle infield? Well, there's not a lot you can do about it as a pitcher. You got to pitch your game. Like if you're Logan Webb, you're going to pitch your game no matter what. I do think it could be something where if he's really scuffling and he's run out there the whole year, it's going to start to get frustrating over time and people will start whispering, but maybe he'll close it down. Maybe he'll become a little better this year and it won't be as big of a deal as I'm making it right now. Webb and Ray both have very high K rates. Webb just also gets crazy ground balls. Yeah, almost all of Ray's, Logan Webb's balls in play are like going to be grounders. 54.2% ground ball percentage, 91st percentile. On top of that, he's getting a ton of strikeouts. So, you know, you're talking about a guy who relies on his infield defense, you know, and not just for like a little amount of time. Like he's over 200 innings 3 years in a row. So you're spending a lot of times out there fielding ground balls behind Webby. And that's why I think this is a little bit of a curious move and that they were willing to do second base for him. Will the new Giants manager have a say in signing Arraez? I mean, I assume the manager gets looped into a lot of things, but then again, I don't know. I haven't been in that seat, and I think it's a little different with everybody. The sweet sound of baseball is almost here. Yes, we are in February. We are on the countdown to the Super Bowl. People are down in spring. People are getting ready. And we'll see. Saw a stat that Arraez was hitting like 150 with runners on and 2 strikes. Yeah, it's not like his batting average is probably like nobody, even if it's high end 2 strikes, it's probably not great. It's not a great strategy to be down to your last chance all the time, you know. So we'll see. The thing is, the starting pitchers that brought in with aren't the ones who get a lot of strikeouts. I agree. You look at these two in particular. Where are my guys? Hauser and Roop. Molly's more of a fly ball pitcher, but Hauser and Roop are big-time ground ball guys. Let me look at that real quick. Look at House. Come on, internet. Yeah, see, he's 79th percentile ground ball. And then I assume Roop would be too. I mean, he's a sinker, sweeper, curveball, changeup guy. So it would make sense. Yep, he's also 69th percentile in ground balls. So that's at least 3/5 of your starting rotation that are big-time ground ball guys. We'll see. We'll see how it plays. Doesn't hitting him leadoff kind of waste his contact skills? The whole point of batting leadoff is to get on base, but also to be a threat, you know, a little bit on the bases to distract the pitcher a little bit when he has to go through the heart of the lineup and make his job that much harder. And I would agree, if his on base percentage isn't as high as it needs to be, then it does seem like you're forcing it a little bit. 327 on base is not exactly screaming leadoff to me. If he's back up to where he was, you know, 24, even definitely 23, then yeah, sure, 393 on base, you know, that'd be great, but I don't think he's exactly going to do that. Like, if you're going to just get to 0-2 anyway, why not take a hack at those early pitches and risk a whiff? That's how I feel. That's how I feel. All right, stupid question. What's the difference between a change and a split? There's not really anything different about them. It's a grip thing. Typically, splitters will have less spin rate than changeups, although kick changes are changing that a little bit. So there's not really a whole lot of difference. They're both designed to do a similar thing, move down, you know. I saw a video that they should be batting him cleanup, using him to try and drive in runs. Yeah, I mean, I personally, like, when I think about facing Arraez, I don't want to face him with guys on base, because then the single beats me and he's really good at hitting singles. Like, then his strength becomes the thing I fear the most. You know, also, you can't punch him out, really. 3% punch out rate. A lot of times when you're in trouble, man on third, less than 2, you got to get that punchy. He's not really letting you do that. So again, I can see some sort of logic in moving him down in this order somewhere. I mean, if I was looking at it right now, I'm not really sure who their on base guys. I have to look at some of these numbers, but yeah, I mean, I'd like to go righty lefty if I can. I'm not sure exactly how I would do that yet, but there's definitely, I mean, Ramos at one point was hitting leadoff. I know he kind of dropped off a little bit. I mean, I'm doing a lot of recon on these Giants guys, but I would expect a bounce back from Helio. Plus, he's getting ready early to play WBC for Puerto Rico. 328. Yeah, it's not really any higher. Not really any higher on the on base, so he's not necessarily a perfect candidate either. I don't think you're going to ever bat Bader lead off. Yeah, 347 was better last year. I'd be surprised, though, if he ever batted leadoff. Just looking at their lineup, though, if you want Devers to bat 2-hole, it would make sense to have a righty leading off, but they don't necessarily have that guy. So then you might have to switch that around. Maybe go Arraez, Adames, Devers, Chapman, and then you mix in from there. Or, I mean, Lee could be the other potential leadoff guy. What was Lee's on base last year? Because this is really what he's paid to do, is get on base. I thought it was pretty good. 327. See, it's not high enough to really break through there. They need somebody to get on base for these dudes. All right, what else we got here in the chat? Regarding Arraez, leadoff, he doesn't walk. If he's putting the ball in play, wouldn't you rather have other people on base? That's kind of how I feel, too. Plus, he's slow. He's not running at all, so he's not really creating it. Like, if you give a leadoff single to Arraez, you know he's not moving. He's kind of anchored to first. Doesn't do you a whole lot. I just know as a pitcher, it bothered the crap out of me when there's a jackrabbit on first rather than a guy who's anchored on first. Like, you almost don't care if they're on first base and they can't move. So, even if this makes the Giants a little bit better, they're still years away from the Dodgers. It'll never feel like a good move. It'll feel like a good move if he hits 330, you know, his on base is 370, and his defense comes a little closer to, well, 320, 370, and then his defense comes a little bit closer to league average. Then it'll feel like a really good move, yeah. Not to say they'd want him back the next year, but never mind. All right, so now we want to talk for a second about this Puerto Rico WBC situation. So already we've seen some things changing on this front. We've seen some things changing on this front. A few players were already given the green light that they're going to be overturned. It would not surprise me if more of them are going to be overturned, and some of these guys are going to end up playing. they're one of the host sites. This is a big deal. If their whole nation were to sit out, I mean, it would really be a disaster for the tournament. It wouldn't look right. So I would not be surprised if some things get worked out. There's also just some inconsistencies here. I know Lindor had a cleanup surgery. So did Judge, though, right? They should be in the same situation. There's some others as well. It does seem a little odd that some of these guys have not been approved by the insurance. But I have a feeling that we haven't seen the end of this saga yet. So before I really comment on it too much, let's see how it plays out. But I have a feeling a lot of these Puerto Rican guys are going to end up on the team. You know what's funny, though, is if you go to the Puerto Rican roster right now on 11.7, they have a couple guys that were taken out because they put an insurance agent in a clown suit on here, which I thought was pretty funny. Obviously, that's where Lindor should be and some of the other guys. I have a feeling it's going to work out, but I just don't have any real insight here. But I got to believe this is going to happen. I got to believe this is going to happen somehow, some way. And the rosters are going to be officially announced on a show on Thursday. So probably on Friday, we'll talk a lot about the full rosters once we have those names. All right, what else we got here? Yeah, and then this whole thing, like if you're over 37, they're not insuring you, period, unless you don't have a major league contract, like somebody like myself or Kershaw. But I mean, man, really hard. I mean, you get one freak injury with Edwin jumping around and all, or Altuve getting hit on the hand, and all of a sudden everybody wants to pull the plug on a lot of these players. But ultimately, without the stars and without all these players, with all these countries feeling like they're sending this team that they want to send, it definitely would devalue the tournament to some extent in my mind. For some of the insurance issues, our team's not able to put money away ahead of the tournament. Yeah, these federations aren't very wealthy. Ultimately, this is funded by MLB and the owners, and I think it's just like the premiums are pretty high when some of these guys are making so much money per year. Right? Like you have a guy like Lindor who's making 30-something million a year. Let's say he has an injury that goes man down. Yeah, I mean, that's a big payout. So, you get it a little bit from the financial side behind the scenes, but at the same time, like if this is a tentpole event, if this event's that important, you got to find a way to make it happen. Yeah, I think Judge did have something, right? Judge had a cleanup on something. So, I don't know. I bet it'll go down. I bet it'll happen. I bet it'll happen for sure. But I guess we'll find out. Elmer is on the roster. That's one of the big guys for the Yankees, big Yankees prospect, Elmer Rodriguez. Puerto Rico's always struggled a little bit with Puerto Rico's always struggled a little bit with the depth of their roster. They've always been extremely good on the starters, like on the starting squad. But then after that, they've had a hard time with the depth. So you get a lot of minor leaguers who get in there, which that's a great opportunity for guys like this. It is getting bigger and bigger. It's gotten bigger every year. This one's going to be massive. So I'm excited for it. All right, what else we got here? We haven't talked about Jacob Wilson extension. We'll get to that today. I was saying Steve Cohen can't Steve Cohen just save the $30 million over 3 years knowing Lindor is going to play? Here's the thing, the owners, you think Steve wants Lindor to play in this tournament? The answer is no. He wants him to play for the Mets. So it's just like, I know he's really wealthy, but just say, let's set an extra $30 million aside or whatever. It doesn't really work that way. What else we got here? MLB is going to have to self-insure the players instead of an outside agent. That very well may happen. I think it's worth it to them, though. They have big TV contracts coming in from this. Ultimately, this is pouring a lot of money into the sport and to MLB's top perch at the top of this sport. So I do think it'll be... I think they have a lot of incentive to figure this thing out. So let's wait and see how this pans out. All right, on to our next move. We'll revisit all this stuff later, but our next move should be this guy right here, going back to his old stomping grounds, Eugenio Suarez, penciled in as DH for the Redlegs, for the Red Stockings. Guy hit 49 pumps last year and has to settle for a 1-year deal with the Reds. Couldn't get himself into a 2 or 3 year deal despite only being 34 and on his way to potentially 500 dingers. And I'll tell you why. A couple reasons why this happened. Number one, the on-base percentage is .298. That's brutal. 49 home runs, but .298 on base drops him to an .824 OPS. It is so hard to hit 49 home runs and only have an .824 OPS. Now, .824 OPS is still very good. And I think that this guy's a good fit in a home run hitting ballpark, and I actually kind of liked him for the Red Sox, but he ends up going to the Reds. Other downsides, defense. So the Reds have been searching for answers at third base for a while. They had Candelario. That didn't work out. They traded for Ke'Bryan. He's kind of ingrained there now at third. So that does push Eugenio to DH, which is probably where he maybe should be now, right? Maybe that's where he does belong, is at the DH spot. I think that's maybe why teams like the Red Sox balked at it, having to have him play at third. But he does one thing, and he does it really freaking well, and that's pull fly balls. 73rd percentile expected slugging, 89th percentile barrel, 70th percentile hard hit. Everything else is below average. He whiffs too much, he strikes out too much, and with all that power, he still walks too much because he chases too much. So, if you're looking for a growth within Eugenio's game, it would be to cut down on the chase, and then you might see his walk numbers go up, and then at that point, now can get himself closer to that Schwarber-Alonso territory where you're combining walks and home runs, and your OPS can creep even higher. Maybe that's what he becomes as a full-time DH. But it's just an interesting free agency how it worked out. When you hit 49 pumps, everybody seems to love you. There's no red flags with your personality or anything. But yet, this is all you could do. So let's see how it relates to the Reds. This is the Reds' current projected starting lineup on roster resource. Friedel in center, Noelvi Marti in right, Ellie at short, Suarez at DH, Sal Stewart at first base, Tyler Stevenson catcher, JJ Bleday in left, Matt McLean at second, and Ke'Bryan at third. These are all good ball players. Most of them have not really reached their potential. Actually, none of them really have reached their potential yet, except for Suarez. But they have an awful lot of potential here. Sal Stewart's a really good-looking young hitter. We know about De La Cruz and certainly what he thinks of himself, turning down a $200 million extension. And certainly he could be on the highway to greatness, but he's not quite there yet. Marte had, steroid suspension, has kind of lost his, he was an infielder, now he's an outfielder. We'll see how he looks. But they did put power into a ballpark where power plays, Great American Ballpark. Obviously, we all know it's an absolute launching pad. Let me go look at where that played this year. Well, over the last three. Fourth best place to hit. 123 value on home runs, which makes it the second best stadium to hit dingers in behind Dodger Stadium. And that number's probably... Dodger Stadium's a good place to hit home runs, but it's probably inflated a touch by the hitters they have on their team. But yeah, second best place to hit home runs. You bring a home run hitter in, makes some level of sense. Going back years past, Suarez did also have another 49 home run season, little known fact, and it did come as a member of the Reds. Came back in 2019 in the juice ball year, 49 pumps. So he has experience being not even an all-star in a 49 home run season. Crazy. He has some experience being there though, so he's comfortable there. They're comfortable with him. He had a lot of home runs in that ballpark. That's what they're hoping for this year, and they're hoping to raise their floor. They do have a very good pitching staff. You look at this starting staff, pretty damn good. Hunter Green, Andrew Abbott, Singer, Lodolo, and Burns. They did a little bit of work to the bullpen with Pagan and Pierce Johnson, as well as Caleb Ferguson. I think this team is a threat in the Central. I don't know if I would project them over the Cubs, and certainly you can't sleep on the Brewers. We like what the Pirates have done, but I would put the Reds a little bit ahead of the Pirates. I do think a little bit, concerning is that if they don't get a breakout offensively, this team's going to be pretty easy to pitch to. There's a ton of righties, a lot of guys who all they want to do is pull. You know, I see them as being a sitting duck for a hard-throwing right-handed relief type late in the game who can kind of cut through this lineup pretty easily and just kind of pitch around Ellie if you have to. Suarez, Stewart, Stevenson, McLean, and Ke'Bryan, and Marte, all pretty easy to pitch. All pretty easy to pitch to if you're like a righty with a fastball slider combo that's deadly. So those are my initial early thoughts on Suarez. Let me get into the chat here. Suarez will benefit from that hitter-friendly ballpark. Yep. Ocean View says the Reds will be competitive. I agree. I mean, look, they made the postseason last year, edging out the Mets barely. I think they'll be better than that this year. I think the National League is going to be quite competitive, but I do think they'll be a little better. Curious to see who takes the step forward. What you need is guys to take a leap up a level on your club. That's what makes a big difference. I just don't think anybody's going to care about this. Players are going to say, we don't need, we want that money to come to us. We don't want it to necessarily go to some insurance fund. All right, anyway, 50 home run season incoming in the Great American Bandbox. Read that the Pirates are offering more than 1 year to be part of Arraez, going somewhere he could hit a lot of home runs and familiarity. Yeah, again, Pirates is super deep to left at PNC, and Great American's not. And I think this is a place where he's comfortable. His family's been there for a long time. He played there for a long time. So familiarity sometimes does make a big difference, as well as, again, the opportunity to put up numbers. At this point in Suarez's career, we looked at this the other day. Or I looked at this yesterday, I should say. He's at 325 career dingers as going into age 34 season. So that puts him at 175 home runs below 500. It's not completely out of the question. If he finds a way to keep playing and he pumps out 35 home runs a year, he could maybe get there. So maybe that's kind of what the thought is now, is just try to stack some numbers. If you're not going to get any offer that's that compelling and they're all kind of similar, go to a place you're comfortable and a place you can stack numbers. Why not? Oh, my bad. I didn't show the screen there. This was this is his career home runs down here. 325 is the number we're looking at. And if you look at the last few years, 49, I don't want that, but 49, 30, 22, 31, 31. So he hit 15 in the short year, but for the most part, he's averaged 32 home runs a year. So he'll look to continue that, and we'll see if he can. We'll see if he can. Would things be different for Ke'Bryan Hayes if the Pirates let him use his personal hitting coach? I don't know. People use their own personal people a lot. You just can't let it conflict with the team. You can't let that happen. Yeah, I'm a Sox fan, not really interested in this defensive liability who's a lottery ticket at the plate. I do think he would have fit well at Fenway, hitting pull-side homers, and the Red Sox could use some right-handed thump. But yeah, the defense, it definitely didn't look good in the algorithm, so Breslow wasn't going to go for that. He did post 3.3 WAR in 100 games with Arizona, then only 0.3 WAR with the Mariners. Maybe he didn't like the Mariners Park. He's just a very streaky player, too. He had the 4 home run game. He has a lot of empty at-bats. He didn't do a whole lot in the postseason this year. What did he do in the postseason this year? It just felt like to me he had a lot of empty at-bats in the postseason this year. Yeah. Okay, so he hit 095 in 5 games. He went 2 for 21 versus Detroit, where they ultimately lost by 1 run in that series. So that hurts. He did hit 308 in the series versus... Oh, wait, no, they beat Detroit. They barely eked out Detroit. He hit 095. And then he actually hit pretty good against Toronto. 2 home runs, 29 plate appearances. But you see, it's a little bit of a streaky factor. There's a lot of strikeout in his game. Punched out 9 times in both of those series. So he gets some empty at-bats in there. But, he's a pull-side home run guy. Again, he's very pitchable. I never had a problem pitching to this guy. I always felt like, it's very obvious what he could do and what he couldn't do. And let's see what he's looking to do. He's looking to just absolutely get the barrel out front and pull fly balls to left. That's what he's looking to do. That is what he is looking to do. And, you know, this is a very modern skill. This is what people do, is they know that pull side fly balls in the air are the jam. So that's what they sell out for. He's one of the best at it. He's got a scoopy swing designed to catch the ball in front. But, you know, I just think he's very pitchable again. So, you know, stay out of the honey hole. You won't give up a home run. You won't give up too much. Let's go to his bat tracking. It's crazy. His bat speed's above average, but nothing crazy. It is a long swing, which makes sense. And then let's go to his swing path and attack angle. Yeah, I mean, 39 degrees of tilt is extremely scoopy. 18-degree attack angle is exceptionally, we're about to see the visual here, exceptionally under the ball. League average is 10 on attack angle. He's at 19. So that's extremely uppercut, and it's pull side, which makes sense. I mean, every single thing in his approach, you know, and his swing tells you how to pitch this guy. You pitch him up, make him chase off the plate away because he has to dive for everything to try to pull it. He's not going to take you the other way. You make him aware of that outside part of the corner. And that's kind of what you do. This is O'Neal Cruz, who we don't care about. But I don't know. We'll see how it keeps playing. We'll see how it keeps playing. I've been consistently blown away by Green. I think Hunter Green is on the short list that could win a Cy Young. He combines never walking you with huge strikeout rates and an ability to go deep into games. I think there's even more levels to Hunter Green's game still, so we'll see. Yeah, he did hit a granny versus the Jays. So that counted for pretty much all of his damage in that series. Again, though, you can stay out of that scoop. You'll be all right. Boston seems intent on leaning on Marcelo Meyer in a big way, and I would too. At some point, you got to find out. He's more of an all-around player, really good defender. I thought maybe he could have moved over to second, but I guess, you know, Christian Campbell still exists, and there's a world in which they get him back in the mix. And you know, really, Breslow's not really a guy that strays too far from the models, and the models aren't going to love Geno as he gets older and he's a one-trick pony. Seems like he's predominantly a mistake hitter. If you pitch him right, you get him out consistently. That's how I feel. I feel like he's a medium speed crusher mistake guy. Like, just don't throw a cutter speed pitch or a slider speed pitch down the middle. You're pretty good. Fastball and predictable count, but if you keep it away from him, it's going to be hard for him to pull it. So that's how I would typically, you know, approach Geno. And just kind of go from there. All right. All right. How do we feel about the Central, guys? This is going to be an intriguing Central now. Pirates have definitely made some upgrades to their offense. We know about their pitching, assuming that holds strong. Cardinals have punted everybody. They're probably hoping to finish in last here, but have a good year growth-wise. So, like, the Reds and the Pirates are both making pushes to try to get at this top group, but the Cubs have gotten much better, in my opinion. You know, Bregman, some of the trades they made, they're poised to take the next step, especially if PCA can continue his upward trajectory. Brewers punted out Peralta, but you can't just ignore them. They find a way to do it every year. So I don't know. I think the Reds is going to be this Central is going to be a fascinating race, especially that Reds Pirates. Like, who's better there? Who's going to be the stronger team? I think it's the Reds, but at least we have 4 teams that are kind of going for it now in this division. It's going to be a fascinating one for sure. It'll be a race between the Brewers and Cubs, Reds and Pirates. Yeah. Do MLB teams help players move? They do not. You're kind of on your own. You're kind of on your own. If you have a lease, sometimes you can give your lease in, you can surrender it to the team, and then they'll go ahead and try to help the new player that came in maybe move into your apartment. But for the most part, no, like you're kind of on your own. All that stuff is handled separately. Not a lot of help. I've always said I think that teams should own apartment buildings in their cities, make them nice, make kid areas, communal areas, gyms, recovery rooms and stuff, have a whole bunch of apartments. That way when, players come with families mid-season, they have a place to seamlessly go into, that's nice and safe and has, amenities and things like that. And then you just let the building continue to appreciate over time. But again, it's not my money, so I don't really get to make those decisions. But I think that would be a nice level up for an organization to do, particularly a team like the Mets, where it's really hard to get traded to New York City midway through. Figure out how to do it. Yeah, and the Brewers' strongest organization. I mean, we're going to find out this year. They continue to do what they do. Get rid of guys with value, regroup from the bottom up. Getting Jet Williams and Sproat from the Mets. We'll see how that affects things. But I'm waiting for the Brewers to stink. Hasn't happened yet. Pirates could have their own LA2, complete with O'Neill if it breaks out. That would make the Central. Yeah, so O'Neill Cruz is like obviously a huge ceiling guy that hasn't quite got there yet. If you look at the Pirates lineup, we'll take a quick look at that because they have made some improvements to the offense, but they're going to need some guys to bounce back within their own club. Horowitz, who didn't play a ton last year because he was hurt, that's a big piece. Lau is a huge piece that they're betting on big this year. Reynolds, they need him to play better. O'Hearn, that was a signing. So again, these are all like potential things that could be better. O'Neill Cruz, we know about. Triolo was quietly pretty good. Mangum's a little contact guy. Like they're trying. They also got the password from the Red Sox. Like they're trying, but we have to see how this plays. Let me look at O'Neill Cruz for a sec. Absolute monster, but 676 OPS last year and 544 plate appearances, actually really scary bad for a guy with this many physical tools. A guy who can literally hit the ball 120 miles an hour. Really scary. And yeah, I know that Connor Griffin, if Connor Griffin is the guy that we all think he is and he comes up soon, that will make a huge impact. But, he's so young. He's so young. Okay, this is O'Neill Cruz's profile from last year, which is almost the reverse of Arraez, right? 100th percentile in exit velo, 97th in barrel, 90th in hard hit, 100th in bat speed. He even gets his walks because people are so afraid of making mistakes to him. But his whiff percentage, his K percentage, his chase percentage, it's all just untenable. On top of that, now he's playing outfield where he could be pretty good, but he's no longer the shortstop anymore. It's just, you can't strike out this much. You got to put the ball in play when you hit the ball this hard. So, he's a monster, a sleeping monster, sleeping giant, whatever you want to call him, but he hasn't quite gotten there yet. I mean, his best year is a 773 OPS, so he's only scratching the surface. We need this guy to hit the ball more. Let's see what he does. 27 years old. It's about time to go, buddy. So let's see what he does. Here we go. Do you at least get welcome baskets or something when traded? Sometimes, yeah, you'll get like a basket with some gear for the kids or whatever. But it's just like those mid-season trades are tough on people. I've seen it a lot with the Mets. Like we would get guys at mid-season and they were swimming in their own dome, getting their families comfortable and all that type of stuff for like usually a month in, and it's not an easy place to be. I bet Jacob Mizorowski will take over Peralta's wall. I mean that's the idea for the Brewers, is that the Miz will eventually develop into the main ace. But they got a couple big things with him. They got to keep him on the field. They got to keep him in the strike zone, and then the sky's the limit. But those two things are big. Is this O'Neill with his uppercut? It's funny because when you go to the swing path and attack angle, he's the guy that comes up. So 33%, 33-degree swing path tilt's actually right around average, 2 degrees pull. Attack angle is a little troubling because for a guy who hits the ball so hard, you'd like for him to hit the ball a little more in the air. Only 9-degree attack angle means he's basically going to hit more ground balls than average. You'd like to see that be a little better. I wonder if he could combine a little more of a flat path with hitting the bottom of the ball a little better, and that might equate to some things. Just a fascinating guy to watch. Fascinating guy to watch. Between him and Ellie, you know, two just absolutely tantalizing physical talents. We'll have to wait and see how that goes. Bubba Chandler will also take a major step this forward. Big prospect for them. Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest Bubba Chandler guy. A lot of people have him rated so high. They have him like really, really highly rated. I'm not as high on him yet. I'm in a wait and see mode. One thing he does a good job of, he throws a lot of strikes. Um, you know, he throws a lot of strikes. Like, where's my guy? Right here, 14th. He's got a good fastball. I don't really like his breaking ball that much. I know Stuff Plus disagrees with me. A lot of people disagree with me. I'd like to watch it. I know we got on a roll at the end. I mean, here's the big thing that's impressive. Only 4 walks in 31 innings last year. 31 strikeouts, 4 walks. Where you going?
Turn on the heat.
Oh.
It's freezing everywhere.
So that's good. But I didn't see anything in his profile that was exceptional.
Love you.
Love you. Thank you. In terms of the way it looked coming out of the hand. So I need to watch him a little bit more. But, you know, we'll see. Maybe Pirates is also an organization where they don't improve their hitters on the MLB level. You got to continue to finish off the process at the big league level. It's a different game. So I think this is huge. Like how you prepare your guys for battle each and every day versus the pitchers you're going to face at the highest level is fundamentally different than what you're doing in the minors. So yeah, I mean, look, it's so important who you have whispering in these guys' ears and helping them go through the roller coaster of this, you know, process of becoming good in the big leagues and becoming consistent. It's very important to know these things. What's this? Same for pitchers as Adam Ottavino at Cardinals. What are you talking about? Why is Bubba Chandler ahead of Trey Savage? I personally would not put him ahead of Trey Savage. Personally. They have him, in terms of the pitching rankings, it's McClain is number 1, Bubba number 2, Painter number 3, White, Cade, Savage, Hernandez. I'm not saying he's not going to be a solid guy, but I mean, right today, Savage is just much better than Bubba Chandler today. So that's my take on that. Is Griffin really going to be up in 2026? I think that's up to him, but he's got every possibility of knocking down the door. You're the number 1 prospect in baseball. I mean, he's not going to go back to Double-A probably, right? He hit 337 in Double-A. It was only 21 games, so maybe he will. But it's not going to be long. If he comes out like gangbusters, they're not going to be able to resist. I also mentioned that there's also some stuff with the Pirates, like Ben Sherrington, the GM's part of it. It's his last year of his contract. Skeens starts getting real money after this year. They have a lot of incentive to be good this year, or they could blow the team up. So they won't hesitate with Connor Griffin if they think he's going to make them better. They won't hesitate. If O'Neill ever developed the swing adjustability of a guy like Vladdy, I could see the similar results in the future. Not a hot take, a very true take, but this concept of swing adjustability is kind of the holy grail. Like, you need to be able to do it. Not a lot of guys can do it. At the end of the day, like when you hit the ball as hard as these two guys, like Vlad or O'Neill Cruz, you just need to hit the ball. If you cut down on that strikeout rate and then you drive people out of the zone to get more walk rate, now all of a sudden the on base goes up, K rate comes down, you have more opportunity to do damage because you're putting more balls in play and you hit the ball really freaking hard. Swing adjustability, right? So like keep it a little flatter so you can cover more parts of the zone, but also shoot to hit the bottom of the ball so that you're not pounding the ball on the ground. Vlad, for as good as Vlad was, he pounced the ball in the ground quite a bit. But again, he has the ability also to elevate with backspin when mistakes are made, and that's what I would like to see from O'Neill Cruz. Be a little more opportunistic when mistakes are made, but also be able to fight a little bit more on the pitcher's pitches, which right now, if the pitchers make their pitches, he's out. You know, he's just out. He's relying on mistakes, but you need to do a little bit more than that. Maybe I'm biased, but I think Painter is too high. His fastball shape got way worse. Yeah, we looked at that last year when he came back. Totally different guy, arm angle, everything. So we're just going to have to wait and see what Andrew Painter looks like in spring this year. Right now, he's still riding on his old, resting on his old prospect pedigree laurels in a lot of ways. Can't be that fun playing Pirates versus the big clubs. Motivation might be lower to work, hand, and developing. That's why a guy like Jazz might try harder at the Yankees. So like when you're in like when you're a young player, I don't think it matters necessarily to be in a small market because like you have to prove yourself at the big league level anyway, and like you don't really realize that you're playing in like a disadvantaged situation. But I think once like you become a guy, you could easily lose motivation if you feel like it's dysfunctional. I think that's what happened with Jazz a lot. Then he goes to the Yankees, and every day feels important, and he's on the big stage, and you have no choice but to show up. I think that's important, but you need to be self-driven in this game. We can't always be accommodating guys because they don't like to play in a small market. Like you need to be self-motivated and find a way to do it. Otherwise, to me, that's a red flag in your personality and in your internal drive. So, yeah, it's depressing to play on a losing team. I did it for a long time, but you have to find ways around that. You can't be defined by that. Perfect example is Freddie Freeman. He had to develop a high strike swing because he had issues with it when he broke in. Yeah, Freddie Freeman's a great example of an adjustable swing. He's got power, but also likes to go the other way. Can literally control the entire strike zone. Plays to the scoreboard. He's also very aggressive early. Freddie Freeman's a perfect role model for a lot of guys, but he also has a really weird swing, so it's hard to emulate it specifically. You try to emulate the approach more than anything. I think it is a hot take. Vlad is much shorter, and I think the body type stuff actually matters. Vlad generally covers the plate well, and that will be easier for him. Well, yeah, when you're shorter, I think that matters. There's no doubt about that. O'Neill is really big, 6'7", 240. So to your point, it's a little harder for him to be compact when he's so big. How big is Vlad? Doesn't mean that he can't do it, though. Doesn't mean that he can't make his swing a little bit more forgiving. Because at the end of the day, he needs to put more balls in play. You look at the difference in their profile. Vlad doesn't chase, 90th percentile in chase, and even the whiff, for as big as he swings, only 68th percentile in whiff. So does a good job. Does a really good job at just hitting the ball. But he's also a lot slower than O'Neill Cruz, so he's getting less out of his batted balls, probably because he can't run, and O'Neill can. So I'm looking for him to just come back to the mean a little bit. Obviously, Vlad's 6 foot, so there's a 7-inch difference there. Although he never felt that small, to be honest. I guess we'll find out with the ABS this year, whether he gets recalibrated or not. But I agree with generally what you're saying. A bigger guy, it's a little harder to stay tight. But he needs to get tighter. O'Neill Cruz needs to get tighter. It's the bottom line. I mean, he's not going to probably get to an elite Vlad level of bat-to-ball skills, but he's got to close that gap somewhat, is my point, somewhat. I don't think he can get quite to Vlad, but he needs to close that gap down. Did I talk about the Hicks trade yet? Nope, that's probably next. Let's see. Let's see here. All right. Yep, White Sox acquired Jordan Hicks. So this was a straight-up cash dump. Hicks came over in the trade last year to the Red Sox from the Giants in the Rafael Devers deal, along with Kyle Harrison, who's still over there and is kind of a depth guy. But Jordan Hicks, man, what an interesting player. This was also shows you the difficulty sometimes of moving a contract. Hicks was making $16 million or something like that. No, he's making 24 over the next 2 seasons. So that's 12 a year. That's when he got signed to that 4-year deal by the Giants, and they tried to convert him to starter. So the Red Sox were desperate to clear this money, so desperate that they included David Sandlin in the deal, who was one of their prospects. So all this did was just clear out money. That's all it did. They're giving up on Jordan Hicks. The White Sox are saying, thank you, we'll take the guy. We'll take him. We'll go ahead and take a shot at this talent, and we'll see what we can do with him. Hicks is just a weird player. Let's just go look at his overall results, basically, from his career. It started as a 21-year-old with the Cardinals, and arguably the best he's ever been. It was pretty much these first 2 years. 2019, he got hurt, but look at 2018. 73 games, 3.59, did a good job, too many walks, but he was really hard to hit because he's throwing 102. Then it kind of regressed from there, finds himself in a trade where he really popped really well for the Blue Jays at the end of 23, 25 games with a 2.63. But there's always been some red flag in his game because he doesn't get enough strikeout. But ever since he signed that deal with the Giants, man, the first year started off okay, ended up cratering. And ever since then, it's been pretty bad. I mean, last year he put up a 695 in 67 innings, 80 hits, which is pretty hard to believe when you throw as hard as he does. Ultimately, at the end of the day, these are his career averages per nine. Only 8.8 strikeouts, which is nuts when you throw this hard. Too many walks, 4.5 walks per nine, and too many hits, eight hits per nine. Now, he doesn't give up home runs, but that's just an awful lot of base runners to combat. Career whip of almost 1.4. So there's always traffic. It's not a good scenario. All that being said, he's got an elite level of arm talent. Like, he's literally up there in terms of the hardest pitches ever thrown. I think he threw a 105-mile-an-hour pitch. Still averaging 97.5 on the fastball. Still getting 95th percentile ground balls, and he doesn't give up home runs. So, again, like, he has some underlying talent there, but the results really aren't there. I mean, even in his last good year, he had a 136 whip, which tells you you're playing with fire a little bit, and then these last 2 years, 145, 166. So the White Sox will take him. You know, they have plenty of playing time to dole out. You know, he's still got that upside, but we're 7 years in now, and he's 17 and 35 with a 441 and less than a strikeout per nine, despite being one of the hardest throwers we've ever seen. So, you know, I think it made sense for the Red Sox to get out from this. It's kind of a bummer though, because they literally traded the franchise player Rafael Devers, and in that trade, they didn't really get what they wanted to get. You know, Harrison is a maybe. Hicks was a maybe, but now he's a no. Now he's moved on. So, luckily for the Red Sox, they have enough pitching depth where they didn't have to do this. Like, they didn't have to hold on to him just to cover innings, because we've gone over it a bunch of times. They have more than enough pitchers to cover. So they go ahead and save the money. We'll see if they do anything with it. But here's the White Sox. So Jordan Hicks will be penciled in as a relief pitcher. Obviously, he has 35 saves in his career, so he could potentially move up the chain. But yeah, they take it on. I like what the White Sox have done overall. I don't love the Jordan Hicks move. I'm not a big Jordan Hicks fan in terms of effectiveness. I don't necessarily think he has enough feel or pitchability to like way improve. But, you know, White Sox are doling out playing time and opportunity to guys. Sir Anthony Dominguez, Jordan Hicks, you know, Anthony Kay, Sean Newcomb, obviously all the hitters that they gave some opportunities to now. Murakami Hayes now is another one that we have to go over right now because he just got signed there too. And we'll see how it plays for the White Sox. But for the Red Sox, you know, it's not a whole lot. It's just disappointing that they didn't pick better, I think, when they got the players back from the Giants. So I think that's kind of the reality. When players go from the Red Sox to the White Sox, should we say that they were bleached? That's cute. I don't mind that. Sox to Sox. There actually been a lot of Sox to Sox trades recently. Crochet, Sale. Seems like they link up. On one hand, what do the White Sox have to lose? But on the other hand, there are definitely much better options to spend money on. So that's my thing. Like, they're taking on, what is it, $16 million over 2 years? So they're paying Hicks $8 million a year. I think at $8 million a year, you could have got a more of a sure thing. They must really think that Brian Bannister, who runs pitching with the White Sox, can unlock something with Hicks. But I also read here that he was bumping heads with Andrew Bailey. Pretty hard to imagine bumping heads with Andrew Bailey about anything. Just a sweetheart of a human, and all his job is to try to help you get better. So Bannister's going to be a little more forceful about it. So we'll see how that goes. You know, you just have to assume that the Red Sox main priority was getting rid of the Devers contract. That's what it was. That's what's been revealed. You know, that was the number one priority. They wanted out of that and they got out of that. People like Hicks are throwers and not a pitcher. Totally agree. I also think when he had Yachty catching him, that was really helpful. Yachty could kind of steer him through it. But now he's kind of on his own, so he has to figure it out himself, right? His sinker is just like not a big whiff-inducing pitch, and that's his main pitch. He tried to go to four-seam at one point. Let me see if I can pull him up, what he was throwing this year. So this is the current mix. 54% sinker, 22% sweeper, 9% four-seam, 8% slider, 6% split. So really he wants to be a sinker sweeper pitcher, but he's not really savvy enough to get a lot of looking strikes on purpose with backdoor sinkers. And then like, I don't think his sweeper has anything crazy whiff rate wise. Let's see what we were running last year with each of these pitch types with whiff. So the sweeper did have big whiff, 44%. But look, the sinker, man, it's hard to zoom in on this. Oh shit. The sinker only had 9.1% whiff, which is shockingly low. So that's why he doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. He actually has some whiff on the other pitches, but he doesn't have enough command to necessarily take advantage of that all the time. Because if you look at the whiff percentage and then you compare it to the put away percentage, his numbers are a lot weaker. So like I don't think he gets a lot of whiff back to back. But you know, it's also partly his extension, only 6.5 feet of extension. Doesn't really make his fastball play any better than the number. If anything, it might be a little worse than the number. So there's a number of reasons why he doesn't get whiff, but when you rely heavily on a sinker and you just don't get whiff on that, it's made to get ground balls. You're just not that style of pitcher. You know, ultimately, he doesn't have a huge arsenal. Let's go see what Stuff Plus has to say. All right. Here is our Stuff Plus situation. So still has him at 110 Stuff Plus. A lot of that's just velocity behind his pitches. All of his pitches are going to grade out decently because they're fast versions. 111 on sinker, 105 on split, which is a relatively new pitch. He does have a handful of them earlier on, but he doesn't throw it a high percentage. And then his gyro slider, 114. You know, but when you're comparing it with a location plus score that has never broken 95, just tells me your execution rate's not there. And at the end of the day, if your execution rate's not there, what do you really got? You got good stuff, but the execution is actually more important than the stuff at the highest level. So stuff has come down a touch, but not much. He did have a 125 Stuff Plus in 2023 right when he was about to get paid, but it's definitely backed up. So I don't know. Take that with a grain of salt too. White Sox need arms. Hicks has an arm. Makes sense for him. Hicks has 8 years of service time. That's impressive for the results that he's have. It just speaks to also what teams are looking for with the Stuff Plus rankings, right? Like they're just really, a lot of times blind to execution rate, actual performance. They really want to just look at components of performance and project forward. And with the velocity he has and the age he's at, he's always going to look well in these models. So it's going to look like an undervalued guy, and they're going to all think they can fix him. But, you know, it's always up to the pitcher because you're out there by yourself. You got to do it yourself. And the White Sox also were able to get Sandlin out of this. Sandlin's a guy with, you know, future 6 years of control value pitching prospect for the Red Sox. I wonder where he would rank. Do we have Red Sox? Well, I guess he would be White Sox now. Wonder if he's going to be in here at all. He wouldn't be very high. All right, here's David Sandlin. 2025. Between AA and AAA was quite good in AA. 13 starts, 17 games, 361, 82 and 2/3, 1.18 whip. Got hit around pretty good in AAA, but he only got one start in AAA, which is interesting. So I wonder if the White Sox will keep him starting or if they'll transition him to the bullpen. But it did not go well in Worcester. 7.61 ERA. Too many walks. What's the bio say? Scouting grades, 55 fastball, 50 slider, 50 cutter, 50 control. So that's solid overall, but gives him a 40 overall grade score. So I wonder why. Originally a Royal, traded for John Schreiber. 95 to 97 reaches 100. Can get rocked when it doesn't command it because it lacks run and carry. So doesn't have great shape, but throws really hard. That's why the Red Sox move him to the bullpen to potentially get him ready for a call-up. Mid-rotation starter ceiling, lots of reliever risk, has to prove his durability. So it's a lottery ticket that probably the Red Sox would have rather kept, but they also really want to get rid of that money. ultimately. So that's probably what the White Sox were thinking. Sandlin was supposed to be moved to the bullpen, potentially debut, but he didn't transition. So yeah, that's what we just saw by the numbers. Makes a lot of sense. As a high velo guy, you'd think he'd want to miss bats. Sinker sweeper seems like a bad combo for pure whiff. It is, and like sweeper has like a diminishing return too after you throw a few of them in terms of getting chase. So, but this was the real key. Red Sox drop under the second luxury tax for now. And obviously as fans, we don't give a crap about any of that. But from a business perspective, that was their goal. Have to credit the White Sox for their moves this offseason. Really think they're going to improve for their 26th season with some really low-risk moves. I like a lot of the moves they made. I'm just not sold on Hicks. I like the fact that they were able to get Sandlin in the deal as well. And maybe that's why they will taking on the money. But I'm not high on a lot of their pitching, and I'm curious to see. I do like a lot of what they've done, with their young core developing in the middle of their order in their position player group. And they have some interesting prospects coming. This is their group that's coming right here. And they're really, the first 5 names are all pretty high end. Montgomery, Schultz, Carlson, who was my favorite player in the draft last year, even though he was 19. Bonnemer and Hagen Smith, who was a beast at Arkansas. So they have some guys coming. I'm excited for the next generation of White Sox baseball, but I'm just not big on Hicks. I'm just not. All right, what else we got? Giants probably originally wanted to have Hicks to have Edward Cabrera and try to fix him. And it was fine the first 2 months and people were praising their vision, but he wasn't really going to be durable enough. His velo was way down. Again, he doesn't get any whiff. So then you become, the BABIP gods make a big difference in your value. If you can't get any whip, you need a lot of batted ball luck. Assuming the Red Sox will still add more, but it's going to be close. Ooh, and they have the number 1 pick this year. That's exciting. Go for Chalowski. Give me some rock in my life. But man, this guy Billy Carlson, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this guy play, man, but this guy's defense, it fired me up so much. I wonder if we can actually take a second to watch Mr. Billy. I'll let the load for a second, but this guy looks like the real deal. Plus he can pitch as a fallback. Another guy from that Corona high school, same high school as Seth Hernandez and Dino Abel's kid as well. So pretty high profile high school team. All right, let's get into Billy here. They're going to show him swinging it a little bit, but I hope they show some defense because he is awesome at shortstop. Here's a ground ball to him. Oh, that's just him catching the ball. But, I mean, about as natural a shortstop as I've ever seen. That's him pitching. Very good athlete. Could easily end up as a pitcher if the shortstop thing doesn't work out. But I freaking love watching this guy on defense. I wish they would show me more. Wow, we're going to watch him draw a walk. Nice video, MLB.com. But yeah, he was my favorite player in the draft. Just when I saw his defensive actions, hard to teach what he has going on athletically. Maybe there's a better way to look at this. Here we go. Perfect game. All-American Classic. I mean, it's just so easy for this kid. And he's so athletic and throws the crap out of it, stays low, has great range to both sides. I don't know, just big high on this kid. So curious to see how the White Sox young core develops. But they're on the way up. They're on the way up. Again, I'm not a fan of the Hicks move, but I like everything else they did. I love the risk with Murakami. He's got such upside. And I like some of the other moves as well. So let me get off of that for a minute. Okay. What is the next thing to talk about? Because all the Red Sox did was really get rid of money. Okay, the extension of Jacob Wilson. So this is another extension for the A's. This is an interesting one. It's a 7-year contract plus a club option for the 8th year. So considering he has 1 full year of service time, that means they've bought 2 and potentially 3 years of free agency out of this. So in terms of the raw numbers, he's giving up a lot of potential money here. But at the same time, he gets that stability, and he becomes a very valuable piece for them. If they ever wanted to trade him, he's on a very reasonable contract. And, $70 million is a lot of money, of course. But I don't know where it means a whole lot. I find it intriguing that he did this and didn't bet on himself. And Jacob had a really weird year last year. 800 OPS on the dot, hitting 311, 355 on base. His contact skills are very Arraez-esque, but he also can play some defense. Let's see what he looks like when you type him into here. A little bit below average on defense, but he's got really good hands. I think it's a range thing. If he touches it, you're usually out, but he's got to touch it. And again, this is just a weird profile, way down there on the really good on the whiff and K percentages and squared up, a la Arraez, but similar issues. No exit velo, no barrels, no hard hit, no bat speed, not enough walks. So interesting player, but it's really relying on him to get that 300 batting average, basically, to be super awesome. So I don't know. Intriguing move by the A's, because in a lot of ways they could have waited it out. He could be a guy that fades really quickly and then he's nothing. But they decide to split the difference. This contract won't kill them if he ends up stinking, but it will really benefit them if he stays on his track and hits 300 and becomes a perennial batting title type of guy, threat to win the batting title, and his defense is league average. Plus, I like his fit in their lineup overall, because they have a nice mix of power, speed, and now contact with him and McNeil. Kurtz, Langoliers, Soderstrom, Rook, McNeil, Wilson, Law, Muncy, and Denzel Clark. I've continued to say I love this young offense. Wilson's a big part of it, and he's a little bit different stylistically than some of these other guys. Kurtz, Langoliers, Soderstrom, Rook here, those are power hitters. Butler too. So him and McNeil will kind of be, although McNeil's now, we know he's swinging for a little more pop too, but those guys will look to get on base, get big timely hits, and we'll see what this means. I do like the A's a lot. Can't wait to watch them play this year and see if they can get over 500 and get themselves back in the mix, Do I think a Kurtz extension is coming? It would have to be pretty big, because Kurtz is headed to the big time, So I don't know. It is obviously hard to pass up on big numbers when they come and you only have a year of service time, but I'm not exactly expecting a Kurtz extension, but we'll see. Yeah, I guess they're trying to go with this Braves approach, extend the whole core and then build around it when they get to the new stadium and they want to spend a little more. Could be the idea. Right now, I think he's worth exactly that money. If he develops above average, then the contract could be awesome. So that's why I think it was a no-brainer for the A's at this dollar figure. It's not going to crush them no matter what. They can afford him. Basically, you're paying him $10 million a year from here on out. So that's not going to crush you. But if he's good and he's worth $20 million a year, well, now you're doubling up. So I think that makes a lot of sense. They still have a lot to work in the rotation and bullpen. They do have some young pieces coming. Jamie Arnold is a big one. They have some guys coming. Who else do they have coming? Hold on. Yeah, Gage Jump. Braden Nett just got up there. Gunnar Hoagland was a guy who got up this year. I mean, they have some young pitchers. It's just that they're DeVries is a big one coming too. But they definitely their position player core is a lot better than their pitching right now. All right, here's a random question, good enough for a detour. Have you ever lost passion during your baseball career? I can't say I ever did. I think I was a little unique in that way. I mean, I was depressed. I definitely did the usual, like, I should just quit type of stuff when I was sucking in AA. But I cared so much. Like, I was very emotional and depressed when I did bad because it's all I ever wanted. So I don't think I ever lost the passion. But at times it was really, really hard when you feel like you love the game and it doesn't love you back. But no, I mean, I love baseball. I'm obsessed with the game. I think that's It just is what it is. You know, always have had the passion for it. So thanks for that question, though, DC. Are these multi-year deals for young players like Acuna and Roman Anthony a recent trend? I don't remember. Yeah, it's somewhat of a recent trend. Last 10 years or so, you've seen it because there's huge value if you gamble correctly on the right young player. Then you don't have to worry about them getting huge raises through ARB. And then becoming a big issue when they get close to free agency, like we've seen with so many guys where it's like, do you trade them? Do you not trade them? You lock them up early. And then if they really pop, like an Acuna, then like theoretically you have massive trade value at a lower valuation. So yeah, these have been done for a while. Sometimes they don't work out, like a Singleton or the guy White from the Mariners, or even like my buddy. I've seen it a number of times with other guys. The early extension doesn't always work. Like Christian Campbell went back to AAA. Not to say that it's over yet for him, but sometimes they don't work out. But when they do work out, like in an Acuna situation, you have a super duper star and a great contract. Albies and Acuna. So we'll see. Yeah, he graded a little bit below average. Graded a little bit below average, but we'll see. I'm sure he's going to be working hard. I actually saw a video of him turning double plays with his dad in their backyard. They have a field in their backyard. So I think guy like this will work really hard, Jacob Wilson, but we'll see how it translates in the real world this year. All right. What else we got cooking today? Oh yeah, Austin Hayes. So Austin Hayes also is now a White Sox. There was a lot of teams interested in Austin Hayes, but I think this move made sense for Austin individually, even if he left some money on the table, because what are the White Sox providing? They are providing opportunity. He's going to get to play, and it's been a while since he's really, really played a ton. He's going to be slotted in as the everyday right fielder. Who do they have on the bench? Like Acuna could get some playing time, Pereira, but ultimately this is going to be Austin Hayes' job. A guy with 6 years. He's a veteran on this team. He'll be the second most tenured starting position player, him and Benny. So, the White Sox have done some things. They go get Austin Hayes. I don't hate it at all, but I like it for Austin Hayes. He gets a chance to play every day. Let me look at Hayes. As he has started to finally bounce around. He was, an OG Oriole when I faced him. But he's definitely bounced around a little bit. This past year, 416 plate appearances. The year before, only 255. I know he was hurt for a while. So he's looking to play every day, basically. 768 OPS last year, 315 on base. Not great. Has a little pop, 15 home runs. About a league average defender. To me, this is basically what league average baseball player looks like. 30 years old. Solid contributor, but probably not a major difference maker. That's kind of who he's been his whole career. Used to be more faster. Not as much anymore, but that's the thing. Around this time of year, you have to choose between maybe a little bit more money and a better team or a place with opportunity. So Hayes takes the opportunity. This is the starting 9. Meadroth, Teal, Montgomery, Vargas, Benny, Murakami, Hayes, Baldwin, Cuero. So we'll see. I guarantee we watch way more White Sox baseball this year than we did last year. That's for sure. So we'll get to take a peek at Austin Hayes and see how he fits. But there's not a whole lot to break down with him. He's kind of a free-swinging guy. He's always on the fastball, swings with no batting gloves. Like I said, about league average in a lot of different categories and in a lot of different ways. So with all the offseason moves, what's the strongest division this year? I mean, to me, it's pretty clear it's the AL East. Just looking at the divisions. You look at let's just click on the AL East for a second. I mean, Yankees were 94 win last year. They're bringing back the same team, plus Garrett will come back. Blue Jays, probably a better regular season club this year than they were last year. They're returning. Red Sox, their pitching is now number 1 on terms of projections, so they're going to be solid. And the Orioles have gotten way better offensively. Actually, way better all around. Plus, the Rays are the Rays. So I think you have 5 competitive teams in this division, making it the toughest division. Otherwise, what other division would I say? NL East will be strong, of course. Particularly top-heavy with the Braves, Mets, and Phillies. NL West, also probably the second best division, I would guess. NL West. Obviously, the Rockies are not going to be good, but they're going to have 4 teams going for it in this one as well. Last year, 4th place had 80 wins. That's pretty good. So I'd say AL East, NL West, probably NL East after that. And then after that, I think both Centrals are going to be competitive. I would give maybe the edge to the NL Central this time. AL West, I think the Mariners are strong. And there's some up-and-coming teams like the A's that we like, but ultimately I definitely think the AL East and the NL West are clearly above the others. DJ Base Monkey, aka Kyle Teal, is that his deal? He's the Base Monkey? Never heard of that before. Here's one of the OG earlier extensions that happened. Ryan Braun also signed one of these too. Longoria debuted on April 10th and signed a 6-year deal on like April 20th back in the day with the Rays. So that was one of the OG early extensions and one that really worked out as a proof of concept to a lot of people. Longoria probably was a little bit underpaid for how great he was for a long time with the Rays. He was legitimately a top 15 player in baseball for a while. So, yeah. All right. What else? We talked about Ramirez's extension. Well, I guess the only thing, the Twins thing we talked about live when it happened on Friday. It looks like ownership wants to take a more of a Jerry Jones approach here and be a little more actually involved. And I think Falvey maybe didn't want that. So my speculation is that this was just a power struggle a little bit in the direction of the team struggle. And ultimately he decided to get out of Dodge, which sucks because I think he did a really good job over there with the Twins in his, 9 years? Yeah, 9 years with the team. All right, and let's talk really quick about this guy, my retirement buddy, David Robertson. So he finally hangs it up. He played last year at the very end of the year, pitched 20 games for the Phillies, ended up putting up a 4.08 in those 20 games. Wasn't really as good as he's accustomed to being, and now he did get paid $6 million for those 20 innings, which is amazing. But yeah, D-Rob, 21.9 WAR, essentially 22 WAR. I've stated before, once you're over 20 WAR as a relief pitcher, you're in a very elite group. Like this is I don't think a lot of people would realize. I think he's up there big time in all-time WAR. Curious where he rates next to Papelbon. Yeah, he's very close to Papelbon, who probably had a higher peak and more saves at 23.3 WAR. But anyway, back to D-Rob, great teammate. A guy that I was always kind of chasing in my mind as, contemporary setup men around the same age. And I thought I had him for a little bit of a stretch, but then he put the hammer down from 23 on when he put up a 2.05 ERA with the Mets and a 3.03 on that season and kind of separated himself again and then pitched great again as a 39-year-old with Texas. He's not going to make the Hall of Fame, but outside of those big three, the Kimbrel, Jansen, Chapman group, he's probably the next best relief pitcher of this generation. He really is. 2.98 FIP for his career in 881 games, 179 saves, which would have been way more if he wasn't on the same team as Mariano for most of his career. Here's the big one, though. 1,176 strikeouts. He's one of only, I think, 15 men to have 1,000 strikeouts out of the bullpen. That's like kind of the holy grail. I was there when he got to the 1,000 strikeout. That was the number he was chasing. And then he added another 176 on top of that to really drive the point home. 11.8 strikeouts per nine is fantastic. 6.8 hits per nine. He's a World Series champion. It's weird he was only an All-Star one time, but truly one of the best relief pitchers of his generation. I have him as fourth. Fourth best. In the postseason, also 43 games with a 3.4 ERA, so solid postseason contributor as well. Let's see if we have any. Where's the win probability added for his career? I'm curious. Win probability added for his career. Positive 24.6 is very, very good. So he was really adding value to his team despite being a relief pitcher. 12.8% championship win probability added is massive. So really every number you look at, he was elite. And just want to give him his flowers. Great pitcher, unbelievable ride cutter, unbelievable curveball, great at striking guys out. Sweet Home Alabama, walkout song. Just a guy that we should always remember. One of the better pitchers, that I've come across. And did join a lot of different teams. This was his overall contribution. 9 years with the Yankees, 501 games with the Pinstripes. Crazy. 275. 3 years with the White Sox was where he made his big money. Phillies, he was hurt a lot with the Phillies, but he did have 3 years there. Then one with Texas, one with the Mets, one with the Cubbies, which was a great year. And then half a year with the Marlins and a portion of a year with the Rays when he came back off his Tommy John. He also pitched for the U.S. Olympic team and won the gold medal with the WBC team in 2017. So big time guy, big time success story. So just want to touch on that really quick and give D-Rob his flowers. What a hell of a career. So congrats to D-Rob on that. How the hell does a team survive without a scouting department? They probably do a lot of video scouting and just analytic, sorting in columns. But if they don't have a visual on them, probably not going to be getting up ahead of that. I did feel like we were similar in a lot of ways, but, obviously he cleared the bar of Ottavino for sure. If Hall of Fame valued relief pitcher, he would have a case. I totally agree. I think he's up there, man. I mean, hell of a career. Hell of a career. Okay, here's a question or something to dive into. Random question. I heard a criticism of Brian Bayo that his changeup was getting too fast. Okay, let's go experiment that. Let's go check it out. Thanks for this inquiry in the chat. Brian Bayo, who I love. I think great changeup. Dude, think he's always going to scuffle versus lefties unless he really executes. But anyway, let's get into this changeup. So 88.8 off of 95. So that's about 6-7 mile an hour difference. Let's see if the changeup has changed velocity over the past few years. Let's find out. So 88.8 last year, 87.6 the year before, 86.2 in 23, 88 in 22. Let's go check the run values on that, see if there's any correlation between speed and effectiveness. Yeah, well, 23, when it was slower, he had positive 8 run value on it. Last year, negative run value on it, neutral in 24, positive in 22. So yeah, I mean, it does seem like there's some correlation between the speed and the execution, and the effectiveness. But let's see maybe if there's other culprits like movement data. So let's try to go by pitch type changeup. Let's just see the changeups. Okay, movement on the changeup. So back in 22, it was, that's total movement. That's not the page I want. I want this one. All right, back in 22, he was featuring 16.7 run and 4.8 vert. 23, he got less vert, 3 vert, 16.4. That's a better shape. 24, similar amount of vert, but a little bit harder. And then last year, his shape got worse. His changeup grabbed an extra inch of rise, and he threw it harder. I think it's fair to say that maybe he should throw this pitch a touch slower or find a way to get it to drop a little bit more. His shape's getting a little bit diminished with the harder velocity, so that could be a culprit. It's also, everybody knows that his approach is very like changeup heavy versus lefties, I believe. So let's go look at the pitch breakdown versus lefties. Oops. Handedness left. Okay. Yeah, 20. So it's his second pitch versus lefties, 22.7% last year. The year before, it was his primary pitch versus lefties, 36.7%. And I will say, sinker changeup, right versus left, not really a great combo. Both pitches are going to have a similar shape, so the hitter can keep the barrel on a droop both times. If you have something to straighten you out, you have to get flatter, then you can get under the bat. But if you're constantly just adjusting with speed, but the same bat path, it's a little easier to do that. You stay in your legs, and you go out and get the changeup. So that's where velo would make a difference because the shape's the same. So he did dial back the usage of his changeup last year, probably because he was feeling a little bit of that. I mean, it had a 211. Well, it had a 244. No, it had a 301 x WOBA. It's not horrible. It's not great, but it's not horrible. You go back in time, though, in 23, it had a 242 xWOBA and a 219 in 2022. So I don't know whether this is hitter behavior or a struggle with location. Does look like he located it pretty well last year. Let's get a look at this changeup. Here's a swinging strike on a changeup. It's all good when they swing at balls. Here's a strikeout to Austin Riley on a changeup. I don't know. The speed doesn't seem to be a huge factor to me, just like visually. I mean, it did look like there was a little bit of correlation, though, in the numbers. Theoretically, you'd like as much separation as you can, unless you're going to use your changeup as more of a sinker. But, I mean, he's coming up to a little bit of a crossroads. He did have a good year last year, 3.35. I just don't feel like he's that dominant. He doesn't strike out a lot of guys, only 124 at 166 innings. Curious where they go with him. Does velo differential matter if there was adequate vertical separation? It still matters. They both matter, but they're different styles. They're different styles. We have seen guys succeed with very little separation in terms of speed if there's good separation with the movement, but a lot of times when they're closer, it's more of a contact pitch, and when they're further away, it can be more of a miss pitch. But it just depends, man. You just got to watch it and get a sense of how it feels. I believe he does throw a basic circle change. Wouldn't surprise me if they put him into a kick change to get a little more drop now. Because the Red Sox showed that a lot last year with a lot of their lefties going to a kick change grip. So don't be surprised if you see these green dots get a little bit lower. This is his least amount of vert on on this chart. Let's take a look at this foul ball. Pretty good drop there. So if they can do something to get more drop, they might do it. I think if I were the Red Sox, I'd be kind of trying to teach him about when to take shots with that four seam, and then really trying to fix that breaking ball a little bit. The breaking balls haven't been that effective. Hold on. Yeah, I mean, I'm struggling to see any time where any breaking ball was better than league average in terms of effectiveness. Yeah, I'm not seeing any. He's getting all his value out of sinkers and changeups. So if they can improve his breaking ball, that would take people off the scent of that changeup a little bit in a way. I know that Pedro has worked with him too. Obviously, he's a big deal. Everyone chasing velo and speed differential. I appreciate pitchers like Maddox and Halladay with great control and movement in the old days. They also had differentials too, and separation and different things. But yeah, it's about command. It's about command and control. At the end of the day, as you keep going, and people can sort of get used to your style, which I think is what he might be running into soon. But you know what? Nothing's broken yet. I mean, 3.35 last year is solid. So let's see what adjustments he makes, and we'll go from there. I always assumed changeup was trying to throw off the hitter's timing, but it's more complicated than that. Yeah, so like it's also the amount of separation between that fastball and that changeup. It's not enough to fool him, because a lot of times, as I mentioned, and I'll demonstrate this for a second. If your bat path is able to stay kind of consistent throughout an at-bat, like you can stay the same level of scoop because you don't have to cover anything with any vert on it. So if pitches are all drooping, whether it's a sinker, changeup, breaking ball, you can stay scoopy. So even if you're fooled, like say you're a righty and you're facing a lefty, even if you're fooled and you're out on your front foot, but your bat path is still the same, you don't have to make any arm adjustments. You just ride out on your front leg and you can still clip those pitches. So that's where more movement would make a bigger difference, because now you have to cover with two different swing paths. And if there's huge separation with the speed, now that it's going to be hard to ride it out because it's more differential. But when they're a little closer in terms of movement and speed, oftentimes guys can ride them out and make contact and get them over the infield for hits. And then your mistakes can become more damage. So it's a combination of vertical separation and speed separation that are the biggest factors, in terms of a good changeup. Also command, like constantly putting it right below the zone or right at the edge of the zone, is also a huge part of this. Let's not just forget about that. Can I explain the kick change a little bit? Yeah, sure. I've shown it before, but like if this is a typical changeup grip, like this would be my normal changeup grip. It's a two-seam changeup. I just have my finger off to the side, and typically my move would be to throw it like on this, because this is where my wrist would come through, and then the ball would kick this way into almost a 3 o'clock spin. When you do it with a kick change, it's the same type of thing, except I'm spiking this middle finger, right? So now this middle finger is spiked. That allows, as the ball comes off your finger, you're a little bit positioned in a different spot on the ball, and when that finger extends through it, it kicks the ball to even a more steep angle, creating more drop. Also, you'll have less spin rate, which creates more drop. So that's what the kick change does. It allows you to get to a spin axis that you could not get to with your hands fully flat on the ball. Knuckling up that middle finger changes the spin axis just enough as it kicks the ball out to create a more extreme level of drop. Give me high IVB and a cutter from the same release point. Okay. Marco Estrada's changeup was killer and didn't have much tumble at all. So this is a different type of changeup. I mentioned how you can do it with vertical separation. You can also do it with speed differential. Marco Estrada threw a four-seam fastball and a four-seam changeup. Now, I actually think this is a lost art a little bit. And I remember talking with like my good friend Drew Smith, who was throwing a four-seam fastball with a four-seam changeup. And the metrics, the pitch model for the Mets hated his changeup because it's so verty. It would be like 14 vert, 15 vert, 16 vert. His fastball would be close to 19. So it was saying there's not enough separation. And in a bubble, you want your changeup to have drop. They were grading it well based off drop. However, a couple things here. Number one, when both pitches spin the same, you can't tell them apart. So that's deception part number one that's not factored in. Deception part number two that's not factored in is how you command it and how much speed differential there is. So now you can't get any clues. So typically if this was a four-seam, but then your changeup spun like a two-seam, that's a big obvious difference to the hitter. Pure backspin versus side spin is obvious to the hitter. But if your changeup and your fastball both have backspin, but there's a 20, 15, 12, big separation in speed, which is what Marco Estrada has, they still think they're swinging at a fastball. So they're very likely to just be out front, lose all their power, and pop the ball up. And if you watch Marco's style, he would pop up all day. He was a very hard guy to hit. I remember Brett Gardner told me that his ultimate nightmare at the ballpark day was 3 at-bats versus Marco Estrada and 1 at-bat versus Aaron Loop. So it was, he couldn't stay back on that changeup. I'll give you a comparable changeup in today's world. Tyler Anderson from the Angels throws a very slow, huge separation speed-wise changeup, but it doesn't have a lot of force drop. This is using the speed differential to your advantage. It's something that you see a lot of fly ball pitchers do because they want to pair that high fastball with that changeup that comes out of that same lane, and even if it's down the middle, you're out front and pop it up. Also, a lot of times, like with Drew Smith, I remember there was an inning where he had to strike out the side versus the Braves, throwing right-on-right changeups. And a big thing with that was you're throwing 97-mile-an-hour four-seams with huge vert, that speeds guys up. Then when you go with the changeup, but the spin looks the same, they don't have any clue, but it was 10 miles an hour slower, and then they were even more out front because they have less of a clue what's happening, but the speed that's hard to gauge was taking care of everything. As long as he located it away with effective velocity, that made it even more effective. So you throw like a fastball medium location in or up, that forces a guy to speed up their swing to get the barrel to it. Then you pair that with the changeup spinning the exact same way, but down and away, they run out of bat on that because they're already sped up trying to hit the fastball. They run out of bat on that. So it's not always about vertical separation, which is what you see when they have different spin. A lot of times it's about literally the magic trick of you think you're swinging at a fastball, but it's actually a slow butterfly lollipop thing coming in. So I hope that explains something a little bit. I kind of went in a long-winded there. I think the hardest part about learning a changeup is that it's hard to trust the grip and just throw it as hard as you can. There's a little bit of a voice inside your head that's saying, oh, this is a changeup, I have to let up off of it a little bit. When in reality, you just want to grip it and rip it because that's going to keep everything looking the same to the batter, and that adds that layer of deception of what's coming. You don't want to give them any cue that what you're doing is laying up on the ball and lollipopping it in there because they're going to feel that. So it's not that it's hard to learn the grip, it's hard to trust it. Pro tip for pitchers out there, if you're trying to learn a cutter or a changeup, the best way to do it is to throw those two pitches from 90 to 100 feet as hard as you can at your catch partner, because that distance forces you to throw the ball and trust the grip. Otherwise, it won't make it. Or if you're throwing a cutter and you don't trust it, it's going to turn into a slider and you're going to miss your target by 5-10 feet. But if you throw the crap out of it right at him, you'll get to see the subtle movement of a cutter or that subtle fade drop of the changeup, and you'll know that you're onto something, that the grip is doing the work. So that's a pro tip. If you're trying to learn those pitches, practice them from about 90 to 100 feet. This is also very, very true right here. Giolito throws the four-seam changeup with the float action. So he's a modern example. He's actually a free agent right now, and I love Gio, first guest on this show, and I'm hoping that he can replicate that. But you see the changeup here; it's a very floaty changeup relative to what other guys have. I mean, that looks like it has a little drop, but that thing's back spinning pretty good. Let's go look at his. Well, I guess I can just click here. Yeah, so he gets 12.6 inches of rise on the changeup. Most guys want to be close to 0, so that's a carry changeup, right? So that's the difference. Most guys want to be close to 0 as possible. His is carry, but that's part of his game. Is just you think you're swinging at a fastball, but you're swinging at a changeup, and you can't tell the difference in the spin. For reference, this is what his four seam is, 18.1 inches. So there's not a huge separation, 4 inches of separation, but there's a speed differential. 93 all the way down to 81. This is kind of what Marco Estrada did. Now you're talking 12 miles an hour, similar spin. That is the magic trick there. That's what we thought all changeups were until we learned about vertical separation, how to force the ball down. Once we learned that, that was a game changer, but this was the old school way of doing it. Yeah, Marco was nasty back in the day. Arm side run on a changeup typically, but not always. Some of the kick changes are more straight down now. So, and we've seen cut changes over the years too. Have you felt the baseball changing over the length of your career? Yeah, I mean, we just seen so many iterations of the ball, different seams, different feels, different leather, all that type of stuff. So, I mean, I felt it change a lot, but at a certain point, I just kind of put that out of my mind. I don't really know a lot about Drew's situation yet. I need to find that out. How does something like Gallen's famous accidental nasty cutter with a change grip? That was a total accident. If you could replicate that, that was really good. Clearly he got some seam shift that forced that cutter, which was a weird pitch. Palm ball, I mean, people throw palm balls. It's just, there's all different grips to produce the same results, basically. Pitch type labels are outdated, and they were never really accurate in the first place. We're doing better now, but there's still some ones that I look at and I'm like, that's a curveball or that's a slider, and they're labeled as something else. So it's true. Maybe the four seam action is why Gio has been historically so effective at throwing the changeup upper rail. It is 100%. They think they're swinging at a fastball, and it's 12 miles an hour slower, so their lower half is gone, and they pop everything up. Totally true. I think there'll be a good combination of both always. There's never going to be one answer. I think you'll see both. Right now, I do think the vertical game, like we've seen with Savage, is a maybe a little bit untapped. So we'll see more people probably go that direction. But I think you'll see both, a wide variety of different styles. No one thing or another. Yes. 100% agree with this, Dano. Don't let Smoltz hear you say that. It's fine. He doesn't have to say it. Yeah, the splits help you get to lower level of vert. That's why you see a lot of guys doing that. But, I mean, look, everybody's got some level of changeup, whether it's, this type of ride changeup, or everybody's trying to throw kicks or splits, or, you're trying to seam shift the 3 o'clock to get more drops. So like everybody's got some element of this now. And you kind of make a choice based on what you're able to do and also what makes sense within your arsenal. If a guy like Trey developed a hammer curveball, I'm immediately putting my money on him for Cy Young. He's an interesting one. We've talked about Trey Savage maybe the most of any player in this on this stream over the past year. Yeah, if he had something under the 0 line, I can't imagine what it would look like from up there. It looked like an anvil dropping. Also, it'd give him some speed differential. It'd be nice if he could have something going left, but for now, I'm going to let him ride with what he's got, and we'll see when. We'll see how the effectiveness is. There's no reason for him to change yet. He's already super outlier, so let's let him rock and roll with that for a little bit. I do think he could do it, though. I do think he could do it, because if you're that high and you should be able to get over the ball and bring it straight down. Actually, surprised he doesn't have one yet. I mean, Tong has one out of a high slot, so plenty of guys do. Verlander wouldn't be surprising, but we'll wait and see. Okay, I have to go in a minute, so let's just really quick recap what happened in Winter League. We are now in the Caribbean Series. They're in the round robin portion of it. Game 1 was played yesterday between the 4 different teams. Now, there are 2 Mexican teams because Venezuela could not participate this year. So Mexican Red, Rojo, played against Dominican yesterday, and Dominican pulled it out 5-4. The Dominican team is all made up of Escogido players plus a few Toros players that they grabbed as they've kind of made their team. The big player yesterday was Junior Lake, former Cub, 4 for 4 in that game. And Dominican's probably a heavy favorite in this year's Caribbean Series, but they took it home in Game 1 versus the Mexican Rojo team. De La Cruz, Hernandez, Frias, Colome, Montilla, Yan, and Cordero for the DR. And then in the other game, Puerto Rico edged the other Mexico team. Mexico Verde, green. Esteban Florio is on the Mexico team? He sure is, former Yankee. Amador, Meneses, Drake, Mendoza, Verdugo. No, that's a shortstop. That's not him. Anthony Ghost, though, getting some pitching time for Mexico Verde. On the Puerto Rican side, not a whole lot of people that we recognize. Maybe Emmanuel Rivera, Isan Diaz. Is this Christian Vasquez who's the starting catcher? Yeah, Christian Vasquez, free agent. So we'll keep an eye on this. But, through one game, DR's got to win. And so does Puerto Rico. So more games today. These are the matchups for today. Puerto Rico versus Dominican Republic. And then the 2... Ooh, Panama's also in here too. I forgot about that. So Panama's also represented. There's a 5th team. They're going to play Mexican Rojo today. Mexico Verde has the day off. So we'll keep an eye on this. We'll see who comes out on top. Wakefield's fastball fooled hitters because of the speed differential. I think quite a bit to this question, Uncle Ted. If you land on your heel, it's harder to get over and out in front of that, out in front and get your release point where it needs to go. You're kind of jamming yourself back. It might be quite effective to kind of like doing a lead leg block in a way, because when you jam your heel in there, you kind of revert energy back up the chain. But I've always wanted to land softly on my front ball of my foot so I can get around and get my arm moving. All right, one last thing here in the chat, and then I'm going to say goodbye for today. What makes the bullet sliders, the movement feels so different to me? It is different. I mean, it's way different than a sweeper, for example, or a slurve. But like a bullet slider, when you're in the middle of the chart, the ball's coming out like this. The whole thing with it is it comes out kind of straight. There's no hump on it, so it looks like a fastball. It's actually a similar effect to what I was talking about with the 2 types of changeups, with the changeup fastball combo where they both spin the same. It's an illusion. You're throwing it hard, the ball's coming out straight, trending like a fastball, except it doesn't have any spin to keep it up, so it deviates. A little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, in some cases, but definitely down. So it's a little bit of that magic trick where you think you're swinging at a fastball, but you're actually swinging at a slider. So that's kind of the effect of the gyro slider. Anyway, that's about it. Thank you guys for hanging with me today. We'll be back on Wednesday. Thursday will be the WBC roster announcements. We'll see what happens between now and then. A lot of pitchers still out there, a lot of baseball players still out there. So we're less than 2 weeks from the beginning of spring training. And, you know, I've mentioned we're in minor league signing season. There was a ton of those yesterday. There'll be more, and hopefully a few more big league deals to talk about in the next couple days, or trades or something. But other than that, it's getting exciting. We're getting close to February. You can feel it. You can't see it here because it's still all ice. But it's only a matter of time until you're hearing the crack of the bat, and we're watching all sorts of baseball on this show. So thanks for hanging with me today, and I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Thanks so much. All right, see you guys later.